Hey, Saturday, December 23rd, 2023. Best baseball player for the year, 1955. Guess who's on the scene? Guess whose career is just getting started? Willie Mays wins it. 1955, he wins 4 categories. Where did he win? He hit 51 home runs. That was the best. 13 triples. Slugging, 659. And total bases, 382. That was close to 400. If you get to 400, you're classic. Willie Mays. Let's look at his year, 1955. Because when did he come up? He started playing baseball. He was 17 years old, 1948. Listen to this. Played for the Birmingham Black Barons. What league was that? Let's see. It's the Negro Leagues. A Negro American League. So as a 17-year-old, he's playing ball. But 1951, 20 years old, gets called up by the New York Giants. Starts playing ball. Played 121 games, 274 average. Hit 20 homers as a 20-year-old. 1952, just 34 games. What happened? Went into the military. So part of 52 and all of 53. So 21 and 22 years old right there. Prime. He doesn't play baseball that much. Doesn't play in 1953. 1954, he's 23. Comes back, plays 151 games. Hits 41 homers. So he's a bona fide great player already. But 1955, he wins it. Best player that year. What did he do? Played 152 games, 580 at bats, 123 runs scored, 185 hits. It's interesting. Willie Mays was not a 200 hit guy. I'm looking. If you look at his whole career, he only went over 200 hits once. And that was in 1958. He had 208 hits. But the rest of the time, he was about 195, 185. He was close. 189, 187. So 1955, 185 hits, 18 doubles, 13 triples. That led the league, the triples. 51 home runs. How about that? 24 years old, he hits 51 home runs in the big leagues. 127 RBI. Only struck out 60 times. 319 batting average. His career batting average, 301. I like that. Just made it. 400 on base, 659 slugging. That led the league. And he led the league in total bases, 382. Nice year, Willie Mays. I put him in my top 10. Where do I rank him? I think I got him about 6 or 7 or 8 right in there. Along with Aaron, Musial. Those guys are 6, 7, and 8. They can be interchangeable. Sorry, I've got about 6, maybe 6 guys ahead of Willie Mays. Sorry, Willie. Why? Well, one thing, the 301 lifetime batting average. There are other guys that had better batting average. You've got to admit that. Now, you did hit 660 homers, which was better than the other guys. But I'm a batting average guy. I think the career batting average, if you play 20 years, if you're in the 360s, 350, like Cobb, 366, come on. For 24 years. Roger Hornsby, 358. Ed Delonte had a 346. Yet he only played about 13 years. See, if he's on a 20-year pace, just imagine how many base hits he would have had. You got Ted Williams. No, you got Tris Speaker at 345. I don't have him ahead of Willie Mays. I do have Cobb, Hornsby. You got Ted Williams, 344. I've got him ahead of Mays. Honus Wagner had a 328. I like Willie. He had 3,293 hits in 23 years. And he missed a year and a half. He could have been up to maybe 3,400, 3,500 hits. Now, Tris Speaker had 3,500 hits. Stan Musial had 3,600 hits. Musial had a 331 lifetime. Mays, 301. Mays had more homers. But Musial had just about the same number of RBIs. They both had over 1,900 RBIs. So Musial and Mays are kind of close. Like I said, I go with the batting average. Tris Speaker had a 345 career batting average. 3,500 hits. 345. So I debate this. Do I want the home run guy or the batting average guy? I go with batting average because that tells me that you're consistent playing game after game after game. You can hit 660 homers. You can have 30, 40, 50 homer seasons. But I like the guys that maintain a high batting average for their career, especially with 10,000 at bats. Now, Willie Mays had 10,924 at bats. He had 301. See, Mays, he had some good years. He had a 345, 319, 333, 347, 313, 304, 317. But he mixed in, he had this 121 games, 274. He had a 152 games season in 1956 and batted 296. I know, maybe he's going more for the slugging than the hits. See, in 1964 he had a 296, 66, 288. Then he had 263, 289, 283, 291, 271. You see, he's below 300 in some of those seasons. In fact, how many 300 hit seasons did he have? Well, my criteria, you got to play over 100 games to be. You can't just play 50 games and bat 300. You got to have over 100 games. So I'm going to count. Let's see. These are the games over 100. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 seasons over 300, but he played 23 years. See, 13 seasons under 300. Take guys like Ty Cobb and Hornsby and Speaker, Sisler. These guys had like 15, 16, 17 seasons over 300. I think batting average trumps home runs. Now you may be a home run guy. Did you know that Harmon Killebrew hit 500 and I believe 73 homers? But his career batting average was 256. I like the homers. I don't like the average. You know, Jim Thome hit over 600 homers. So did Ken Griffey. Yet their career batting averages are below 300. Now, Babe Ruth had 714 homers, right? But you know his career batting average? 342. He's got the homer and the batting average combination. I like that. A high batting average. Not just 300, not just 310 or 320, 342 career. Henry Aaron, 755 homers, but his career batting average is 305. See, he's another guy. When we get to him, when he wins best player, we'll analyze him. Some of the other sluggers, as far as homers, I can look it up, the top 10 in homers. And how many have a high batting average? Lou Gehrig, 493 homers, had a 340 lifetime batting average. Barry Bonds, 756 homers, right? Did you know he was under 300 career batting average? I think it was 298. Mickey Mantle, 536 homers. He had his career batting average 298. What am I getting at here? I like Willie Mays. Great player. 3,293 career hits. I like that. He's not only the homers, but the 3,000 hit club. You know, Babe Ruth didn't do that. Ruth had 2,800 hits. So did Gehrig. Gehrig had about 2,600, but Gehrig played 17 years, and Ruth, if you look at it, basically played 16 years because he was pitching for 4 or 5, and then he got suspended some of the seasons he was playing. He had about 16 full seasons. If Ruth had 20 full seasons, he would have had 3,000 hits. Ted Williams is another guy, had like about 2,600 hits, but yet he missed 3 or 4 years in the military, see, in his prime. He would have had 3,000 hits. Joe DiMaggio is another guy, 13 years, but he had 3 or 4, and he was injured a lot. He could have been 3,000 hits. Joe DiMaggio, 325 career batting average. He's got one of the best players of the year. Let me see. I'll look it up. I'll tell you which year. Joe DiMaggio, he won 1937, but he only has 1 win so far. As you know, he started his career in 1936 and went to 1951. Had some military service, so he's only got 13 years on his resume. He has 1 best player of the year, 1937. You see, Jimmy Fox, Hank Greenberg, and Ted Williams, they kind of won through the 1940s. And then Stan Musial won some. Tommy Holmes had 1. Snuffy Sternweiss had 1. George Kell. All right, now we're in the 1950s. And so far, let's see, George Kell, 1950. Stan Musial, Ralph Kiner, 1951. Stan Musial, 1952. Duke Snider, 1953. Ted Williams, Ted Kogluski, 1954. And 1955 belongs to Willie Say Hey Mays. Say Hey Kid Mays. He won 4 categories, and we're going to give it to him, okay? 301 career, 660 homers, 3,200 hits. Good stats. I was just hoping the batting average would have been like in the 330s or 340s. Then he would have been in my top 3. But he's not. But he's in my top 10. Rank 6 or 7. And I can prove it. You guys may be arguing with me that say, hey, Willie Mays should be number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. But I looked at all the numbers, and I did matchups. I wrote a book on baseball matchups. Matchup Ty Cobb and Willie Mays. Their stats and what if they play the same number of games. Mays will win the homers. But you know, Cobb, he had the RBIs. He had more hits. He had the batting average. You know, it's also in the total bases they were close. So you got to put Cobb ahead of Mays. Ruth, you put him ahead of Mays. Williams, I matched him up with Mays. Williams won it. You know who else I matched up? Stan Musial. He beat Mays in the matchup. And Ed Delante beat Mays in a matchup if you do the same number of games. I'm not talking about career home runs, but I'm talking about what ifs. Delante had a better batting average and more hits, less strikeouts, more doubles. He wouldn't have had the homers. They weren't sluggers back then. Something about Mays, he was an all-around player, stealing bases. Let me see. Let's look at Mays's. He had how many? 339 stolen bases. But you know, some of the other guys in the past, like Delante, he had 500 stolen bases. I know you need to look up Ed Delonte, match him up with Willie Mays. He won't win in homers, but he's close and he's better in a lot of the other categories. Now, as far as defense, I don't know. Mays would beat him in defense. Here's what happened with Mays. Like I said, he had about 10 or 11 300 hit seasons. The other guys I'm talking about, like Cobb, Ruth, Gehrig, Speaker, Williams, Delonte, they had more, or they had a better batting average seasons. And that's my criteria, batting average. You can agree or disagree, that's okay. I'm not saying I don't like Mays. I like Mays. I like his numbers. There's just that one number that kind of gets me. 301 career. I love the fact that he was over 300 for his career. I like that. But 301, Mays, he should have been about 330, 340. Stan Musial was 331. Ted Williams was 344 career. Tony Gwynn was 338 career. Ed Delonte, 346 career. I've been harping on Ed Delonte. You may say, who is this guy you're talking about? I don't know who he is. I bought his book. And I did a what if, and I did a matchup with him. I'll just stress it again here. For those of you that you don't know what I'm talking about. Here it is. This guy's a strange guy, and I'm kind of mad at him. But anyway. He played from 1888, all right, to 1903. That was the 1890s. But they had pitchers back then, and it was tough playing ball back then. But this guy has a 346 career batting average. In 13 years. No, 16 years he played. He played 1,800 games and had 2,597 hits, almost 2,600. I did the math. Okay, 1,837 games. Okay? Let's say he played 3,000 games. Let's say he played 3,000 for his career. So you would have to add another 1,100 games for Ed Delonte. How many career hits would he have ended up with? Well, he was on a pace. He had 2,597 hits in 1,837 games. That is 1.41 hits per game played. Ed Delonte. 1,100 times 1.41 hits. That's for 3,000 games. Let's do it. I got it right here. 1163 times 1.41 hits. That would have been 1,639 more hits if he played 3,000 games. Ed Delonte. So, 1,650 roughly. Let's add that. 2,597 he had. 1,650. He would have had 4,247 hits. The pace he was on. If he played 3,000 games. Now, Willie Mays. I've got him here. Played 3,005 games. How about that? Just over 3,000 games. Yet he ended up with 3,293 hits. See what I'm talking about? Ed Delonte, 3,000 games, would have had 4,200. He would have had 1,000 more hits. So that's what I meant by when I matched up Ed Delonte and Willie Mays. What do you think of that scenario? It's a what if. It's a presupposed position I'm taking. So I'm looking at career lifetime batting average. All right, I think I'm done here opining as far as Willie Mays. Great career, 660 homers, 1,909 RBIs, 10,924 at-bats, 6,080 total bases. How about Delante? How many did he have? Delante had about 3,800 total bases, but if you add 1,000 bases, or 1,000 more games, was it 1,100 more games? He would have matched Mays. He would have been around 6,000 total bases too. Delante would have beat Mays in batting average, career hits. He would have beat him in doubles, because he, listen to this, Delante had 522 doubles in 1,800 games. Mays had 525 doubles in 3,000 games. Give Delante another 1,200 games, or 1,100 games. He had over 700 or 800 doubles. Now Delante also, I'm not talking about homers. Mays had 186 triples, 3,000 games. Delante had 141 in 1,800 games. See, so Delante would have won career hits, doubles, triples, would have matched him in total bases, would have beat him in batting average, because he had 346 lifetime. Let's look at on base. See, this is I wrote a book on this called Baseball Matchups, and I matched up Delante and Mays. All right, as far as Willie Mays, he had a 384 on base. What did Delante have? .346. So they're on base. Mays would have beat him in on base. But Delante's not walking as much. Mays walked more, and they walked him more. Delante's swinging the bat. So the on base, if you add up that he's getting on with a lot of hits and doubles and triples and total bases, I think he would have matched him in on base. How about slugging? Delante had a 505 career slugging. What did Mays have? 557. Why? Because Mays is hitting more homers. But if you stretch out another 1,100 games for Delante, I think he would have matched him in slugging, and he would have matched him in on base percentage. And then total bases, they would have been even. I think in the long run, the only area that Ed Delante would have fell short with Mays was the homers, the slugging. Homers and slugging right there. But everything else, Delante would have beat Mays. That's why I have him ahead of Mays in my top five in my top 10 best baseball players of all time. I read the book on Ed Delante. That guy's a character. Listen to this. He 35 years old. He was on a train near Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. They booted him off the train. And either three things happened. He was drunk. He's walking on the train, slipped, and fell over into the Niagara Falls. And they did find his body about 10 days later at the base of Niagara Falls. That was scenario one. Two, as he was walking on the tracks, someone else was on the tracks and pushed him off and committed murder. The third thing that may have happened is Delante himself just committed suicide and said, I've had it. I'm going to jump off. That's different than being drunk. When you're drunk and you slip and fall, it's an accident, then you're dead. Suicide is an intentional jumping off. But one of those three things happened, and we don't know. It's a mystery. Ed Delante. All right, anyway, this video, let's see, my 774th video was focused on the best baseball player for 1955, and it's Willie Mays. So props to Willie, I like him, and he wins it. Next video. 1956. Guess who wins it? I'm out.